So look at that for a starting field. There's more people down there than there is in the average small village around this part of the Czech Republic. So let's get them under the red lights. They'll go under starters' orders.
107 riders on the start.
And it goes green, and away they go in Nové, Město, Nové, and it's Sondre Rocky and Rens Tunis and Van Manen who get the best start. But look at the Australian coming through round the centre. And he's disappeared off into the lead.
Yeah, Jack Ward coming through. Coming back from third row.
Huge start from Jack Ward, that. He's not slowing down either. You can see the big figure of Rens Tunis and Van Manen. Look across at Sasha Houdima, a little smile on the face of Houdima. Oh, Ward just overshoots that turn completely.
Forgetting there, we're on the start lip, so we've got kind of half lap before going into lap proper.
He did well
along the road.
He did well not to bin it there, Emma.
He did do very well. Great bike skills from him.
Here we go, watch it. Ollie, talk us through it.
Yeah, so the main lap proper goes right, but on this start loop, they're going left.
That's the karting line through there. Did the tyres maybe just touch?
Yeah, so we're onto this forest track, and then it joins through to the bottom of the third climb on the course, third of 4. Joins on the forest road, and then we're up to the second tech zone. So you ran into the lap proper.
Rens Tunis and Van Manen on the left-hand side. Sondre Rocky in the middle. Still Ward plugging away at the front of it. We saw a little action up there, didn't we, Emma, in the under-23 women's race as well from Olivia Onesti, and he went the wrong way.
Yeah, definitely. It seems to be a bit of a common occurrence with that change of track, and yeah, a bit crazy, really.
Look at Ward, Ollie, really having a good go at this start loop.
Yeah, full of fight from the second row, taking it on, and hopefully not getting too excited as we see. I think it was...
Whoa. Some riders just getting bumped off and watching the ripple
pushing
effect.
out on the inside. Everyone cut the corner. Paganella getting pushed out wide.
And the ripple effect off that, pushing all those around him out the other side as well, but perfectly legal, nothing wrong with it. That is just what bunch racing looks like. Look how deep the field is behind them, and so important to stay out in front of it all.
On this start loop, you're never going to win the race, but you can easily lose it.
Yeah, we've seen a few people have a good go at that so far.
The key is you just want to get around this first lap, make that front group, get down the start finish, regroup, and then the race really starts.
There's Tom Shellikens, also from KMC Ridley, just going through your shot now. As you can see, the bunch behind accelerating harder to try and make up ground on those in front. And I mean, I know the start loop is designed to separate things out, but I don't know how you can separate out this many riders.
Almost the bigger the start loop and the wider it is, the sketchier it is.
Rens Tunis and Van Manen just having to squash his way off those Visit Czechia steps.
And I think Tunison as well, he's going to win big soon. You know, he keeps threatening to get that big win. He's always amongst it.
Really, really highly rated young rider. There he is on your screen now in the lead. So he's got past Ward.
And this is where it gets narrow. I'll tell you, the rider who's come well, Finn Trudler going through the overall leader.
Had a really good time in Brazil. Look at this, though.
I say bad short track for Trudler. Let's start 22nd on the grid, so 22nd to 3rd on that start loop. You know, he absolutely smashed the first 2 races, 2 wins.
And Emma, how tough is it to ride in a big group like that and just be confident that nobody's going to do you over?
I think with those wide mountain bike bars, it's crazy. I'm only used to it on the track with narrow 33mm bars.
This is the chaos now. You see riders everywhere, guys falling over. Yeah, once you get outside that top 20, it's just carnage.
Yeah.
We've seen that through all of the races today. You're in that washing machine and it is just carnage.
I stood there once and riders had a bit of an argument, and we were stood in the single track while they were throwing punches. And we couldn't get past these 2 guys scrapping. It was just ridiculous.
There he goes. Rens Tunis and Van Manen. Finn Trudler in the red and white jersey off the overall points leader behind him, and it's moth to a flame stuff, isn't it, Emma? Like, you know, this is the biggest of big stages. This is where all the big teams are. This is where all the media are. If you're a young rider, that's why we see fields as big as this.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for them to race on the world stage, and obviously with Brazil being so far away and now this being on European soil, it's great for them to be back in somewhat of a home turf and able to travel really easily to races, unlike Liam Ward I see there, an Australian, so very far from home for him.
Yep, Ward won the Australian Road Series. He was rewarded with a ride with Jaco Alula for 2026, so a name we're likely to hear a lot more of. I should credit that info to one Jay Carlson, watching on from the stands, enjoying himself out there.
We see now we've got a headwind on this long start finishing straight. Tunesson not wanting to take it on. He's literally soft pedaling now, and this group will go from 1s and 2s back to 20 riders, 30 riders possibly if they carry on at this pace.
Finn Trudler there in the red and white jersey, Cube Factory Racing. So he's a rider to beat really in this class currently. Sandra Rocket in the pink jersey. Got a short track win earlier in the season. So everyone you'd expect to be in amongst it here in the front of this one.
But these riders had an opportunity with Finn Trudler so far back in the pack at the start. They did have an opportunity to put him under pressure, but fair play to Trudler. The Swiss riders recovered from that bad grid position really quickly, and he's now in control at the front. That disadvantage he had, he's overcome that so quickly. For this big group now, it gets a little sketchy. It's going to be a bit of a wash machine. We see this in short track racing a lot, where riders moving around and it's quite quick. You can find yourself in 10th, 12th place. We were in the post-show in the men's race chatting to Christopher Blevins. He was saying once that group gets big, you can easily find yourself 15 seconds back at the end of a shingle track, and working hard to catch up and being in position. It was really difficult in the men's elite race earlier today.
So, as we just see, was that Shell? No. Yeah, maybe. I think it was. Yeah, there's those ruts at the bottom, just getting cross-rutted and down on the elbow and the hands.
You can see as the race is going on, it's grabbing that gravel and pulling it onto the asphalt.
I think that was Paul Shell from the Next Wear squad. He of the aggressive mullet. Not helping them out there today. Finn Trudler, on the look over the shoulder, they're all still there.
But I mean as well, once that mullet goes the wrong side of the centre of gravity,
you want to counteract the balance, don't you, slightly with the gravel arches.
And then we're into the lap proper now, so we're getting technical. This windy climb, this is more gradual, less steep. We've got the Shimano Tech climb at the top. The big rock drops down, and then we're into the Woot wall.
Just to follow up on a conversation of ours from the under-23 women's race, that's the colour of the cube you really like, isn't it? The European champs winning one?
Yeah, like that one.
Good, glad we cleared that up.
I like an orange fox fork as well.
I like an orange fox fork. Finn Trudler leads the way from Rens, Tunesson, Van Manen. Yeah, there was a probably all too deep conversation around colours of bikes earlier on in the under-23 women's race. If you've got any long drives coming up, maybe a good one to revisit. But Rens, Tunesson, Van Manen on that Ridley. Second for the time being. KMC Ridley, another one of those squads that have really invested heavily in these under-23 riders.
3 top riders in this race, and I think Tunesson is the pick of the bunch so far. He's been so strong already this season. He stepped up from last year. One thing I noticed as well, watching in Arashar, which is a really tech-heavy circuit, was skill level really good.
Yeah, and they've really built on that as a team, haven't they? It's something, KMC Ridley, maybe a more traditional team in terms of, the coaching staff's backgrounds, and a lot of emphasis put on climbing and power to weight, but it feels like that young rider roster really has upped the sort of technical demands in there. And
yeah, Tunesson had that sort of race, got that kind of BMX smooth, a little bit of skill, like we see Christopher Blevins as well, kind of effortlessly carrying speed.
You always see, Emma, as well, KMC Ridley riders like riding together all the time, and you can just kind of sometimes from the outside looking in see a team that's working, can't you?
Yeah, for sure. They look like they've got a really great setup. I actually, for the first time this week, popped on over into their pits for a little coffee, and it was lovely. Very nice.
It's an aggressive coffee in that pits. Bart does not mess around with that coffee machine. You can start a van on that stuff.
No, definitely. It's very great.
And the best pit dog.
Yeah, Brom is here in full effect, loving life at the bike races. I don't think he has an option in that.
We see Tunnison hitting the front, and it's this long climb, the hardest climb of the race, 25%, route straight.
Absolutely miserable this climb, and it gets tougher every year. Ollie, is more and more earth is removed from those routes.
And like I say, Emma was down interviewing the under-23 women riders and just saying just starting to rain a little bit.
Yeah, but it seems to have held off, which I think is quite good. There was a few mechanics running around trying to figure out what was happening with tyres and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's good that the weather has held off, especially for them.
I think it take a lot on this circuit. You know, it's thick dust, and it would take a lot of rain to make it a mud bath, and it kind of soaks it up pretty well. But it's those routes. You don't need a lot of rain on those routes for it to get really slippery.
Yep, there is Finn Trudler then, still at the front.
Max Grinzill, 22nd for the British national champion. He had a good short track, 10th position. Slightly got bulked off the start, and he's just dropped back a little bit.
So we see a slow-mo shot off Finn Trudler around one of the right-handers at the bottom of the course. Rens Tunnison van Manen just popping the seat up as he rounds the corner. Aero helmet on for the big Dutch rider as well.
Yeah, we saw a lot of aero tech coming into the short track. Obviously all the riders in skin suits these days, but also the aero socks as well, aero helmets.
It's kind of all in vogue at the minute, isn't it? Casper van Uden, a picnic post NL, getting that Giro sprint stage victory in a TT helmet last week.
When will we see a TT helmet in short track? Oh. There you go. Yeah, that'll be a day, won't it?
That will be a talking point, I'll give you that. It'll be hot work in a short track race in a TT helmet, I think.
Saw Charlie Aldridge in the cask helmet, the one that
I saw that.
Covers the ears, yes, you know, aero, half TT. Didn't do him any harm, 5th position.
Yeah, good result that for Charlie Aldridge yesterday in the short track.
But do we think it makes a lot more of a difference on a short track compared to on this XCO course? You don't see any shoe covers. You might see some aero socks from what I'm looking at, but no shoe covers, not too many aero helmets.
I've never travelled quick enough to actually reap any aero rewards, so Ollie's your man for that.
Yeah, here on this course, the big thing, I think, wearing the aero helmets, that you get a lot hotter. You know, you overheat straight away. I mean, from a track background,
yeah.
those helmets are gross, you know, and if you try and ride for any period of time, you overheat pretty quick. So
I can tell you
I think any aero gains are lost with heat build-up.
I can tell you one thing, it is absolutely throwing it down here in the finish area now. Ollie, you mentioned it would take a lot of rain to affect the track. I think we're getting it.
But the track won't get muddy, but the routes will get slippery really quickly.
Yeah, not great, not ideal.
And this course, it's not like it's a section of routes or a bad line, it's the course. You know, you can't avoid it.
Emma, from your track background, those aero aids, you know, things like the socks and the helmets, and can you feel any of those differences? Can you, or is it a psychological sort of placebo?
Well, I feel like either. It's great, you know, like if it's a psychological, that's perfect. You know, look good, go good. But all of the science that's coming out is aerodynamics is the new thing. We see it on the road, you know, you see it in the road sprints. They've got aero helmets on. Like, look at the Giro d'Italia that was on. There was winners who are in full aero helmets, and I think it's really cool to see that transferring over to mountain bike. We've seen it in the short course. We had gravel tyres, we had aero socks, we had aero helmets, you know, like, what's going to be next?
Gravel tyres felt like one of the biggest rolls of the dice for me, Ollie. You spent more time on gravel tyres than I probably have, but at the speed that elite riders are pushing,
the whole bike will handle differently. You know, big 2.4, even if it's a low treaded tyre, low pressure 2.4, you can really roll it. There's not a kind of edge which breaks off. As soon as you go to that narrow tyre, when it breaks pretty quick. So I think the guys, I mean, it was interesting. We had Puck Peters, who obviously won the women's short track, just used her normal cross-country tyres. And I mean, She said she thought it was better, quicker. But I think what happens as well, we saw Victor Koretsky win the short track last year on the gravel Specialized tyre, and then coming back, then one rider wins on it, it becomes a kind of someone else will copy it in, not necessarily testing it for themselves. It just becomes kind of emperor's new clothes, where the next thing they're going to just take it as a given that it's faster and better.
Well, they are heading out into the arena now, where it is raining pretty heavily out there. See jackets and hoods up, umbrellas going up.
I think tyres make such a big difference. I'm not going to waste the entire under-23 races going super geek on tyres, but we were chatting...
I welcome it. You know that. I welcome this level of geekery.
Emma needs to stay awake, so I won't talk an hour about mountain bike tyres. But
it's good learning for me. It's great. I love it.
Is this because you and I have had a coffee? We're now on the topic about tyres.
We were chatting to the Lapierre guys. They were on Michelin, and they've got a new Jet tyre. Jet tyre's been around for ages. It's their fast semi-slick, and they're constantly playing with tyre pressures and the depth of the tread and the amount of tread, and it's constantly evolving. It's that balance between grip and rolling resistance. And yeah, it's going to be never ending. What we did see in the short track is riders just adding a bit of pressure. Tyre pressure's got lower and lower for better grip. But actually in the short track, riders just ramping the pressure up a little bit. Pressure
is one of those things in tyres that even if you're not a pro rider but you ride a lot, it's something you can feel a difference quite straightforwardly in. But pro riders' level of feeling for how much pressure is in those tyres is unreal as they head onto the grass now for the tech feed zone. And we see a couple of riders opting to stay out. Pacanella 14th.
Yeah, so this front group now, 10 riders. The last one who got a ticket on this bus, Tom Schellikens. Yeah. Paganella as well, 6th and 3rd in the first two round. He's missed the bus at the moment.
You can see just that. It's a visual thing as well, isn't it, Emma? When you see asphalt start to get that glossy, sort of mirrored look on it with a bit of moisture on it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure it will change the way that they're going into the corners, the aggressiveness that they're racing and all that sort.
Here we go through these ruts that caught Paul Schell out. But starting to get strung out now slightly at the front of this one. As we see lead changing yet again. Oh, there's a rider down. That is how quickly it can happen. And the chain's off as well.
No number board already, so probably been down as well.
Yep. And you see the chain is actually caught round the back of the chain device. Hold on, it's not the place to be doing this.
Yeah, Owen Clark, the Canadian.
Clark on a really fast section off the course. Doing well not to be collected there, but not much choice in it given he can't get the bike going.
Then it's William Handley as well now. The Norwegian is hitting so second in the last round, so he's got form.
Yeah, Handley, if I remember rightly, had just a couple of unforced errors in the last sort of lap in Arashah that cost him.
Interesting as well, looking at the lap times as well. That first lap, you know, banged around in a kind of 10:14, and the elite racers were going around 10:05, 10:08. Fastest lap Blevins his last lap 9:51. So these guys are in the ballpark,
and it is absolutely chucking it down. It is that straight down stair rod rain here in the finish area. So we may start to see some glossy routes start to appear towards the end of this one.
Trudler's got in the gap now.
Trudler, good break this, you know. Rens, Tunis and Van Manen.
Yeah, we see Trudler do the same tactic. Same in the second round, Arashai. Just the first lap, he just rolled in the group, and then it almost wasn't an attack, it was like an acceleration. But these rocks are going to get slippery now.
These are going to get a load of dirt dragged onto them and get really glassy and horrible.
And it's the length of this rock, so it's not just one patch. If you've got one patch and you go a bit offline, you can probably blag it. but here it's just, you're into the next section, the next section.
Go. Riders starting to come in. Just wonder, something's gone on there with cabling, maybe? Hard to see what they're working at. Any ideas, Ollie, what we're seeing there?
Looks like an Allen key.
Allen key.
Looks like he's playing with an Allen key. Does that mean the stem's loose?
Yeah.
Might well be.
That's a P45, that one.
Is. That's, yeah, going to take that one up with HR in the morning. If the stems come loose, bit that connects the handlebar to the fork, probably one of the very last things you want to come loose traveling at these speeds. But Trudler doing his best to make a break for it up the wall here, but Rens Tunis and Van Manen 6 seconds back off him. There's a better visual on the gap. That top camera angle slightly deceptive.
This is a punchy move by Trudler.
It's early as well.
Yeah,
Lap
really
2 out
early.
of 7. Maybe, do you think it's maybe going to be a sort of a... Oh! Tunis and Van Manen back wheel just lit up underneath him there. Did well to hold the tiller straight.
You know, going at it like this on lap 2 of 7. You've got to be feeling good and confident. We just know how intense this course is and how fatiguing, and if you go off too hard, you know, there's no recovery, it's going to bite you.
He tried to do this with Hoogs, didn't he, in Arashah? The two cube riders tried to work together, if I remember right, Trudler, but Trudler was just too powerful even for his own teammate. Ended up doing it the long, hard way by himself. Has a little look over the shoulder. That will look better compared to what it did last lap when there was a lot of people there. And there's just one now. It's Rens Tunis and Van Manen.
Interesting to see if Tunison can roll back on.
Here we see slow motion of Ollie's favourite bike through the rock section. And you can see just on the arms and legs and helmet of Finn Trudler starting to get wet out there. Yeah, Tunis and Van Manen seems to stabilise that gap nicely.
Yeah, Tunison is quick. We know Trudler's no slouch, but Tunison is quick on the descent. You see he's just rolling back on, using that speed. They've
really stuck with him at KMC Ridley as well and invested a good few years into developing him. And Emma, that can be huge for a young rider, isn't it, to have the confidence of a big team like that?
Yeah, I think having that development, having that support is just massive, and there's some pretty cool names coming through as well, and they look like they've got a great organisation behind them.
What do you reckon then, Ollie? Just sit on the back wheel of Trudler and...
I would get a bungee cord out, wrap it round his seat post to my handlebars, and just hang on.
I love
my plan.
I love the idea of you out there at the UCI World Cup with a bungee in the back pocket.
Right. Used it a few times.
Yeah. Emma, with your chef's hat on, racing late in the day, does the build up to this become about fueling? Is it complicated? Is it quite late in the afternoon now?
I think you're really looking at 2 meals. You're looking at your breakfast and then you're looking at your pre-race meal. So you've really got to make sure that you get a good breakfast in. Most of the time I would assume they would go for some sort of pre-race ride, whether it's somewhere between 30 to 40 minutes or some people are up to an hour. So yeah, you've really got to make sure you get those 2 meals in, and then yeah, as many carbs as possible. It's hard because the time of racing is, what is the time right now? We're at 4 o'clock, so we're past lunchtime.
Yeah.
So yeah, you want to make sure you get your breakfast and your lunch in.
It's a really tough time racing this late in the day, and the main thing is just energy levels. You know, everything, but most people would normally train in the morning. They might race either the morning or lunch historically. You get to 4 o'clock and everything, normally your whole kind of natural rhythms are just kind of having a bit of a lull. And then you've got to go and do a bike race, and it's such a long day. You know, some people will, like, say, do a pre-morning ride. I was a fan of that one, riding before my race meal. Oh,
you can just see the ripple effect of somebody getting off at the top of the wall here on our screens now. It's a good point you make that, Ollie, because on the drive in this morning, we passed a good few of these under-23 men out on the roads around the track here in Nové Město na Moravě, already on the bike and riding, and I guess the purpose of that is to turn the legs on and get the body sort of...
to stop you switching off, almost, you know, partly it's just to, your legs get blocked if you're just throwing carbs down. With every gram of carbs, you hold a couple of grams of water and everything just gets swollen, you just get a bit heavy, and then you get to the afternoon and you just feel flat. So that little ride just keeps the body alive.
Shouldn't be a problem for Rens Tunnison Van Manen with that coffee machine in the KMC Ridley pit.
The problem is it's not getting revved up too early. You know, if you get on one of Bart's coffees at 10 o'clock, then another at 12 o'clock, then another at 1 o'clock.
But how much of them do you think will also be watching the races so they're able to prepare more compared to, like, normally they just have the under-23 women before, so they're not able to see and have a layer of how the course is?
Yeah, I think you're going to learn more, but the risk is that actually you get too excited. You know, you get a bit of adrenaline, you see guys racing, teammates racing. Oh, the risk is that you kind of...
There you go, Finn Trudler, front wheel just skidding off that final rock there. It is getting dicey out there. One of the things I've always wondered, Ollie, with cross-country racing, in terms of tactics, you know, will these under-23 men have watched the elite women's race and be aware of how that played out and think, oh, that might work for me, or will they have a game plan going into this?
I think you'll have an expectation of a finishing position. I think in this race, before you start, the first race of the year, you go in kind of open-minded, just focus on the process. By the time you get to race 3, there's almost a bit of a hierarchy already formed. You know that Finn Trudler's a favourite. Someone like Tunnison, he's had podiums, so he's like, right, what's the next step? And he'll come into this thinking he's not going to try and lead it from the gun and take it on like Trudler would. He's going to have to ride a bit cagey and ride a bit smart. But I think ride off the back of Trudler will be the plan. There's
a visual on that gap at the front. Looking pretty good at the minute for Trudler and Tunnison Van Manen. Shell in 3rd place, so correction on me, it must have been him that went down earlier.
Yeah, if I was Tunnison, I wouldn't come through. I'd just be sat there, second wheel, let Trudler do the lot.
Has a good look over at Trudler as he rolls past him there, Tunnison Van Manen.
I think if I was Tunnison, I'd sit in and then I'd probably just try, and if you're going to force anywhere and hit the front, you want to do it on the single track.
Here we go, look. Oh. It's really, really slippery, those routes out in the open, and that is just how quickly things start to go wrong. Oh. 7.5 that.
So just before that drop-off, there's a number of big routes, and they're all perfectly at 45 degrees.
Emma, you're shaking your head there in disbelief, but that is the definition of having another rider's crash, so isn't it? Sometimes your eyes can catch what's happening in front of you and take you directly to it.
Yeah, I know, and their reactions are actually very impressive.
As they head through the tunnel and head for the brand new hairpin. Yeah, Tunnison Van Manen's just fallen back in behind Trudler here. Maybe he's got wind of the point you just made, Ollie, that there's no point riding away and the series overall points leader getting a free tow. Gustav Heavy Pedersen in there, currently behind them, Shell, Hudima.
I think just seeing him over the last 2 races in this couple of laps, I think that Tunnison's just got the edge over Trudler on the tech section, so I think that that's where he can put pressure on, either getting in the front or just being aware that he's right on his back wheel, kind of not buzzing him, but just being aware that he's there and just trying to force a mistake really from Trudler.
Easy to do on a day like today in Nové Město, Namarave. The rain started really just as the under-23 women's race finished, and there's another rider down in the rocks, and that is Alexander Woodford. We're going to see a replay of it. Whoa. Yeah. Whoa. Big off there.
It's as soon as you get offline, when it's dry, there's enough grip to correct, but at the moment now,
Woodford is up, but his race looks to be done. Grimacing in pain, he's winded, but at least he's up. Tunnison Van Manen now goes past Trudler.
And Tunnison's not messing around.
I think he senses a real opportunity to grab his first UCI World Cup victory here today.
And this is a section where you want to lead into if possible. There's a good chance of slipping now and losing traction, and if you're going first.
This is what this place does better than just about anywhere else, is that really horrible glassy rock look as one of the Portuguese riders has been down.
And you see the roots just coming in before that drop down.
This is João Cruz.
I think the medics at the bottom of that drop are going to have a busy afternoon. I think a few riders there at the moment.
The American rider who came down in that crash, still down apparently, so we'll bring you an update on him just as soon as we can. Teunis van Manen has to grab an armful of opposite lock to correct that. The two of them, look how glassy that rock section is now. Emma, this is a very different race all of a sudden.
It really is. It seems like it's just making sure that you stay upright.
And this is a vital, vital skill, Ollie, in a cross-country racer's arsenal, isn't it? Of being able to adjust. Yep, you can see arm sling going on. Pretty ashen looking as well. Being able to adjust as a track develops and changes with the weather.
But it's because of the rock features and the amount of roots here, as soon as the rain hits, especially when it's been dry, it's just technical in so many areas.
Here's the overtake for the lead then. Teunis van Manen just wheeled his way past Finn Trudler. But everybody knows that feeling. Yep, the gap just beginning to grow now. Teunis van Manen 2 seconds to the good at the bottom of the wall. Let's find out where he is at the top of the whoop wall. Everybody knows that feeling when you're out on a mountain bike ride and the weather changes and you get that first slide.
It's just starting to get on this climb as well. The rain's now got onto this section. So there's less traction, so it's going to become more technical on this hill.
Yeah, 3 seconds, so he's found a second in there. Chasing pack currently being led by Shell. Gustav Heavy Pettersson's in there. Alexander Hudema in there as well. The teammate of the man currently leading this race.
Yeah, Trudler not liking this. Teunisen's doing a great job just putting him under pressure.
This is new territory for Trudler, really.
You want to mess with his head a bit as well.
Yeah.
Going up a climb like that where they're not able to get out of their seats, how much does weight make a difference?
A lot. Yeah, quite a bit. You know, normally on nice smooth climbs, power to weight. I think on that one you need almost to go down a gear. So you want to have a slightly slower cadence and use torque a bit more. You get more traction with the torque. So it's an area where when I was racing, I used to like a high cadence. When I'm working hard, I instantly ride 100 rev. So I used to like a nice smooth, more of a roadie type climb. When it comes down to loose traction like that, you want almost down 70, 80 RPM.
Look at it through there. Yeah, it's definitely, it's one of those things that I don't think modern full suspension bikes really get the credit they deserve for climbs like that when there's low traction. Just the back wheel being able to move over an obstacle to help keep that forward momentum, absolutely huge.
Yeah, if we look at an example, Sammy Maxwell, she likes pushing that big gear. So her natural cadence and a full suspension bike combined gives her really good grip.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I hadn't seen that clip until the highlights there of Sammy Maxwell looking for a fist pump mid-race from Rebecca Henderson.
That's Sammy Maxwell, though, isn't it?
It's 2025 Sammy Maxwell, isn't it? Her confidence levels are just through the roof and just brimming the whole time with just excitement and enthusiasm.
She's a joy to work with, that's for sure. I'm really loving it. Being a fellow Kiwi myself, I'm all about woman Kiwi coming through sport, and she's been such an inspiration, being so open about, I guess, all of her health problems and all that sort of stuff, so it's really cool to see.
Are you seeing an increase in participation if you're looking at, is it not quite hitting home yet? I'm sure it will happen, I'm sure, but you get someone like Sammy Maxwell coming through, and then a few years later you start seeing the fields rise up a little bit.
Yeah, I guess you always see something like that. As soon as you have, I guess, inspiring people, especially women, you see that development coming through, and sadly we didn't see that in the under-23 field, as we talked about.
Well, here we go, Rens, Teunis and Van Manen up out of the saddle. Finn Trudler staying seated, trying to match him pedal for pedal at the top of the course here.
I think Teunis is desperate to lead into this single track, put pressure on Trudel.
Samara Maxwell as well, really heavily involved with a programme to support young Kiwi athletes coming over to Europe to race, and already very early in her career quite aware of her position, I guess, in the sport.
Yeah, honestly, it's very cool to see. She's been such an inspiration, and she's just such a joy to deal with as well, isn't she? She's funny. I love it.
I was at UK National a few weeks ago, and it was interesting to see how big, going back to that, you know, Sammy Maxwell bringing riders through. I think the Tom Pidcock and Evie Richards, the effect of those guys, and you know, I think definitely the results they've had at world and Olympic level. And you see the junior fields now, like 30 junior women riding out at a national event, you know, and you're going from, there was a time when you're on 5s and 6, and now you're at 30 in junior men as well, 40 or 50, really strong fields.
Yeah, great to see mountain biking increasing in popularity yet again. But Ollie, talk to us about technique here. What are you doing differently on the bike as these conditions start to change? Lighter grip on the bars, just looking a bit further ahead? What's going on?
The key is the routes are now getting more slippery. Before, you could probably just brake a little bit on them and come in a little bit hot. Now you're having to really set your speed early. And it's the same with the rocks as well. So before on that rock garden, you could control your speed a little bit on the way down. Now you don't. The less you can use your brakes on these roots and rocks, the better. So then it's about controlling your speed on the way in. So coming in a little slower.
There you go. You just get to see how little traction there is on those rocks. You can see the tyres just getting pushed around, and all of a sudden Rens Kunis and Van Manen is by himself in our shot. Has he broken away from Finn Trudler here? The clock's saying 5 seconds, but we can't see him in shot. The Swiss rider, the Dutchman, has disappeared off the front of this one. Let's see if we can see a visual on that gap. It's big, Ollie.
Yeah, and Trudler as well. He wasn't struggling technically, but definitely Tunnison was a bit faster, and really good move to attack and get the lead going into that descent, and he's just capitalized on that skill. And it means that 5-6 seconds in, he's got a choice now. He can either hit the tarmac and have a break and recover, or he can press on and make Trudler chase.
Yep, that KMC Ridley squad doing a lot of work with tyre and wheel setup whenever I was down there earlier in the week, and some of the most experienced mechanics in the business. Paul Schell styling his way through the doubles on that Scott, with the shock hidden away inside the frame itself.
Do like a Scott Spark with that hidden shot.
Yeah,
if we're talking bike tech,
there may be something interesting on your TV later in the year surrounding some of the fastest ever Scots I went out to have a look at. But I mean, you look at that latest generation of Scott Spark race bike that we see on our screen now, and that's all racing technology gleaned from Nino Schurter throughout his career, that's just developed and evolved that platform. Unbelievable that he's never raced for another brand, Nino.
It's crazy, isn't it? I can't think of anyone else in mountain bike. There must be people, but I can't, on top of my head, that's had a top athlete that's ridden the whole way through on one bike.
I can't think of it either. I can think of on the road. You've got Mathieu.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
But not on the mountain bike circuit that I can think of.
But even as a junior, I remember he was junior world champion, and all on Scott as well.
Well, we'll be seeing more of Mathieu van der Poel, presumably, if he does want to continue to qualify his quest to qualify for the UCI World Championships later in the year in Crom, Montana, after a not quite successful day. And these rocks here taking no prisoners whatsoever. Let's have a look at this. That's it's an almost identical crash.
And there's two lines. As they come in, they can go far right
in the wars and looking suitably over it.
I think Owen Clark, he was also the rider that crashed at the start of the feed zone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think if someone's telling him to just go and get an early bath,
that might be it. Get the bike in the van. That's almost a mirror image of that first crash we saw through there. So there's obviously one of those first rocks.
There's two lines coming in, and if it's on the rider's right, there's that rock at 45 degrees, just slanting. It just must be super slick. The rider's going to their left. They've got to seem to have a better entry.
How much communication are they getting out there from support staff, or I guess in the feed zones and technical coaches and stuff like that out there?
I think on key sections they may be getting a bit, but something like that.
So they're just, as it comes, they're like, okay, this is... Yeah. And I guess that's how things like that happen, is they're just not aware of how slippery it is and not able to...
A lot of this, Ollie, I'm guessing, is bike time. It's just reactions and feeling adjustments that you make subconsciously as a bike rider.
And I think when we look at the conditions, you've got all these races are good, but there's good and then there's excellent. And this is when the conditions are like that, it just splits those little differences. When it's dry, it means those differences just aren't quite the same. We see it on a course like Mont Saint Anne. That's one of those courses that splits the difference between even good riders. And the same on this section. It's getting so slippery now.
And we're seeing Trudler off the bike, rear wheel spun up, loss of grip.
We saw both of them off the bike. Ren's managed to keep on the bike.
Trudler just skating across those rocks on the way out of it. So both the leaders have been off. Can Shell get through cleanly here and make up some ground? Indeed he can. Look at that. That's exactly what you talked about, Ollie, that balance of power.
Yeah, if I talked about ride ice race with Adam Craig when I was on Giant with him, he's one of the best skilled cross-country racers, went on to have an enduro career as well. And when it got slick like this, or a course like Mont Saint Anne or Champery, he literally would go from... The difference between dry and wet would be 20th to a podium. He was that good in it.
Here are some of the crashes we've seen today. There's the first one on the start loop. Oh, and the Lexware rider just getting bumped off in amongst it.
And I think it was Owen Clark.
Owen Clark having a biggie. Oh, that's a huge impact. The Canadian through there. Carnage in the roots. Having, I don't know if you call it a nice moment, but having a bit of crack and smiling despite the fact that, yeah, not good to see that. I mean, at least they're walking off, though, and with some of the best medics here at the UCI World Cup, of course. But it's been carnage out there. Lap 487, race still being led by Rens Tunis and Van Manen.
Yeah, Tunis looking great there. Full of power, grip, skill, and it's that, when it's like today, it's that application of power. Almost they're just throttling on and off. There's some routes where you can roll, some routes where you can power, and it's just knowing exactly when to turn it on and off, and that feeling and sense of grip on the rear tyre. And some riders have got it more finely tuned than others.
Trudler 15 seconds now back off the Dutchman.
And it's Shell coming through. It's nice for Porsche. You can see Trudler in front. It's always super motivating.
Really aggressive on the bike, isn't he, Shell?
Yeah, and we saw his tech skills. He was the one that out of the first three, he was the rider that managed to ride that.
So far this season, the rider in second place, Finn Trudler, undefeated.
Well, that gap going out now.
In the cross-country Olympic discipline. But Rens Tunis and Van Manen has found another 3 seconds on him.
Tunison as well. This is said similar to Christopher Blevins, just kind of got this effortless speed.
Tunis and Van Manen, a 6th, a 5th, a 5th, 24th, and then that short track result from yesterday. So he's been up and amongst it for most of the year, but this is by far, by some distance, his best performance. Look over his shoulder.
I don't think it'll be long till Porsche rides and catches Trudler.
And then it will be tougher again for Trudler. Cube Factory Racing. Been around a few seasons now, Trudler. Coming good this year. The Swiss star.
Yeah, last year as well, there was some unbelievably good U23 riders, and Trudler was in the mix with them, and he was always going to be, thought the riders going up, he was the natural successor.
It's difficult though, Emma, isn't it? Because sometimes riders, it's as if they find themselves just in the wrong generation. There's just 3 or 4 big talents in there with them that maybe without those, they would be the pick of the litter.
Yeah, no, definitely. It can become tough like that. But you do see under 23s jumping up. Look at Puck. She made the jump up. She did first year under 23 and then moved straight up to elite. So
Yeah, and Mona Mittelvarner as well.
Yolanda
Yeah,
Neff as
same
well,
age, yeah,
way
all
back.
jumped.
Was one of the first to move up early, wasn't she, Neff? And that worked out all right.
I'm actually quite surprised we didn't see that this season with Isabella.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is that, do you think?
To be honest, I'm not really sure. I think for Isabella, I guess confidence is a big thing. It is a big jump moving to that elite field, and for her building that confidence. But last year, she...
At World Champs, when there was that weather warning and they had to put the U23s with the elites, and she started mid-pack from, I think, 7th or 8th, I think, in the race overall. So, you know she's got the speed and the pace.
Yeah.
Ollie, you know me, I'm not that cynical, but is it to gather up jerseys? There's more jerseys to be won there? I don't know.
I don't know. I think if you've won U23 World Champion, you've won all the races, I think as an athlete, I'd be looking for the next goal. You know, I think that most guys don't want to necessarily repeat. If there's another step on the ladder, yeah, I'm surprised she didn't step up.
Paul Schell right with Finn Trudler. Now, so the catch is on, Ollie, as you thought it might be. And what do you reckon, Emma, here? Is he going to go straight past him or stay with?
I think you most likely see them stay together, I would assume, especially coming down this technical section.
Let's have a look at some shots of just how dark and dirty it's getting out there.
White shoes, white socks.
I'm all about white shoes. I've always been about white shoes. I was ahead of this curve. But very, very little in the way of traction. You can see how soft that tyre is there, just deforming over the rocks. And the amount of drivetrain technology designed to keep those chains hooked up and on the right teeth at the right time. But oh, Rens Tunis and Van Manen still trying to pedal in between these rock sections. Both wheels just breaking grip momentarily there on him. That's one of the real danger zones, that part of the lap. Not giving too much away in terms of facial expressions.
No, definitely not giving anything away, really.
I think he's in control at the moment.
Certainly looks it.
Yeah, you get some riders just like, and it's funny, I mean, you do get some riders that look like they're working hard even when they're winning. You know, someone like Alessandra Keller, she can be first place or 10th place. You're going to get that same expression of all over the bike. Flukinger as well.
Yeah. There's other ones, I mean, famously we always talk about, don't we, Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, just inscrutable.
Yeah,
like,
when she's on the day, just robotic, just banging out laps after lap. But even when she's getting dropped, still, like say, no grimace.
It's one of the fascinating parts of the sport. Just watching the body language, and right now, Rens Tunis and Van Manen's body language is looking pretty good here on the KMC Ridley bike.
Still a long race to go, though. We saw it in the elite field how much, you know, the last 3 laps changed.
Yeah.
Lap 4 out of 7, free to go after this one.
And also as well, we've got the conditions now. So the chance of a crash, an issue, a puncture.
Talk about body language. Look at the look on Finn Trudler's face. That is not the look of a man who's enjoying his afternoon. As he sees Paul Schell move past him. Schell looking cool, calm and collected. It's definitely cool anyway, it's freezing out there.
I think mentally as well for Trudler, you win the first 2 races mentally to kind of be on the back foot, and then especially when Paul Schell catches you as well, you hit the front. He hit the front like he was just going to ride off and win again. Then Tunnison drops you, then Paul Schell catches you.
He's attacking him through the tech feed zone here. Whoa, big, big moment. It feels really odd to say that he's got away with that there. That looked like it was going to be much, much worse than it actually turned out to be. Yeah, Trudler broke Beckinsale's feed zone rule there and had a good dig at Schell whenever he was in the tech feed zone.
There's always some sort of karma though. It will come back.
The unofficial commissaires will be out later on.
It's also in the unofficial rule book. You don't attack it by the feed zone, but also in the rule book you will also get it back with bad luck.
Do you have this in track cycling, the unofficial rule book?
Honestly, not really. I'm trying to think of something. When an elimination is neutralised, we have that, but it's not neutralised. It's actually the hardest part of the race, because if you go to the back, you're not coming to the front ever again.
Ever again. Yeah. Someday, Ollie, we need to sit down in an airport and get this unofficial rule book of yours written out. But
Cool.
I'm sure people will pay big money for that as well.
Oh, yeah.
Paul Shell, yet again overtaken by Finn Trudler. These two continue to dice for second place.
But fair play to Trudler. He regrouped a little bit.
And we do see that in cross-country racing sometimes, don't we? A rider gets overtaken and it just kind of stabilizes them almost. It's like, right, I can just sort of hitch my wagon onto the back here and stay with him.
But you get some riders, I think mentally it's easier to, if you're in a PB position and you're having a great day out, like mentally you can have a problem, you can crash, you can get back up because it's a great day. If you're having a day that's below your expectations from when you started and you have a problem, you deal with it worse, 100%. And when this cross-country, the big thing is the mental aspect is huge. You're on this limit the whole time. Half of your brain is saying, you can do it, race to win. The other half is saying, what are you doing? This is nuts. And it's hurting too much, slow down. And depending on how the race is going, depends on which side of that brain you'll take notice of.
On a day like today, when the weather continues to fall out of the sky on you here, and you see Tunis and Van Manen off the bike and running for the second time we've seen it, shrugs the shoulders slightly. That's at the top of that Shimano climb.
Yeah.
Wipes the hand on the shorts there. I just wonder if...
Wherever he had a little get down and it's allowed Trudler, and then this is where the tables turn. You had Trudler just struggling a little bit, gap 20 seconds.
How quickly...
Tunison has a problem, and all of a sudden you're like, right, my turn. And the tables turn mentally.
We say this week in, week out, these races can turn in a heartbeat. And this one, it's not quite turned around, but Rens Tunis and Van Manen was going from looking imperious out front to he's had a little bobble somewhere and it's just upset his rhythm. Equally, Finn Trudler looked to be over it, frankly, on the start-finish straight when he was overtaken by Paul Schell. He's now righted himself and is now pulling away from the German.
And an afternoon like this where the rains come down and the course like this, it gets really slippery, everybody's going to have a problem. You know, and you're hoping it's not a big one, but you're going to have, whether you slip on a climb or you slip out on a descent, you're going to have a little problem. And the key is mentally, if you're having a good day and it's strong, you can jump back on, it doesn't affect you. If you're having a bad day, you know, that you just get back on, become a bit despondent.
Here we go, onto the whoop wall then, for the 5th time.
You just see the change in body language from Trudler.
He believes again, doesn't he, all of a sudden?
He's attacking.
So I wonder if we're going to see any glimpses of what happened to Rens Tunis and Van Manen here as we watch a slow motion shot of him descending through the Rock and Ruby section as they crest the wall.
That gap that Tunison had was 20 seconds, now down to 6 seconds.
All of a sudden, though, Trudler looking like he's just found a bit of extra cadence, just pedaling a bit faster now, Ollie.
Yeah, and I think Paul Schell's, he's looking good, looking smooth. I think the key for him is just to follow Trudler.
Yeah, you can see the grimace starting to appear now on the face of Rens Tunis and Van Manen.
Pedersen as well, 5th position now, winner of the short track.
Paul Schell just stretching his back out, sitting up slightly on the way into that descent. So the lap's starting to take a toll. Oh, and there is an absolute mechanical disaster. That is, yeah, that's not gonna be used again, I doubt.
It's a long, long way to the tech zone.
That was Alexander Martins. That tubeless tyre having separated itself from the rim. When they come off big, and they're still inside that frame, and you get a little bit of riding on them before they go completely, but of course as savage as this in Nové Město na Moravě. What is
Shell actually attacking this climb now? He's come round Trudler.
Yeah, Shell attacking Trudler.
Yeah.
Ollie, talk us through the rules here. Of course he's allowed to run, but he's running to a specific point, isn't he?
So it's 2 tech feed zones, one just after start-finish, one after the climb, just as we see Turnison going through now. So it's a long descent and a climb. You know, the tech feed zones, they started to come in before that. It was only you could fix anything that you had carried with you, so every rider would have a tube, but we're going right back to 2005 when they first added tech zones in.
That's terrific knowledge.
That is terrific knowledge.
Because I was there. I'm that old. It was Spa racing circuit.
Spa-Francorchamps.
2005. Yep. We raced at the Spa circuit. We started on the start-finish straight and went up the first hill.
Paul Schell has broken away from Finn Trudler here. Sorry, Ollie, to take you away from Spa in 2005 there.
It was a fantastic moment in my career. And it was the first time we had tech feed zones.
What did you do before then? Just have to take it all with you?
Yep, inner tube, CO2, 4 5mm Allen key.
Misery.
Chain breaker if you didn't have the best mechanic.
Welding torch, hammer.
Surely you just give up at that point.
Yeah.
No, because the races were 2 hours long and you could do a flat in a minute. You could change a tube. We used to have to practice changing inner tubes as part of our
Part of your training plan.
Did you have a pair of spoons with you as well?
Yeah.
A bowl of
We used
water.
to practice. Now it's all about tech coaches and support. We just used to have inner tube races.
Now it's all about aero socks. I wonder, yeah, it looks like Trudler's lost drive here. He's stuck in a gear, I think. It looks like an extremely aggressive cadence to get up there, and that would explain why Shell's ridden away from him. Saying that, though, Shell's close right up to the back of Rens Tunissen van Manen. Just wonder if Finn Trudler's stuck in a gear here.
Yeah, and Trudler on Shimano mechanical. So some of them run electric. Gear changing. It's on mechanical shifting.
Yeah, it didn't look like the right cadence there at the bottom of that climb. Maybe just something has worked its way into the chain maybe and got lodged in there, or the free hub.
What a move from Paul Schell as well. Attacking, getting across.
Paul Schell's looking punchy here.
Do you know, there's something of the Luca Schwarzbauer about him? You know, he just sits up, stretches his calves out, has a little back stretch.
Yeah, you're not wrong. We haven't quite seen the same sort of Luca style from him yet, though, but he does have 2 laps to go to really show us that Luca diesel engine.
Yeah, he's stuck in a gear, look. You can see how quickly the chain's spinning around on him there, and that is going to be minimum a rear wheel change, I'd have to imagine, and absolute nightmare. Oh, yeah, Paul Schell's having fun out there. Little whip. Yeah, I don't think I'm alone in saying I am a massive fan of watching Luca Schwarzbauer go about his business. Just rides, just heart on his sleeve. There's no complex tactics. There's no, I don't know, gamesmanship. It's just, I am going to go as fast as I can for as long as I can, and if it's good enough, I'll win.
Were you in Hooiberg last week?
No, I wasn't in Hooiberg last week, but when I moved into the team in Canyon Collective, that is what my managers told me was Luca. You know, he's a type of rider that we just love to watch. And I remember my first race watching him, and I was just like, whoa. Okay, I see what you mean. Like, there he is, and it's just so great to see. And he really does take it on, and he does wear his heart on his sleeve.
But also in the modern day, like, media age as well, he's just really straightforward. He's really honest. If he doesn't meet his own expectations, there we go. Now, that is the French rider's rear wheel getting changed when we saw flat, so we need to see if Trudler comes in. That doesn't look right to me, Ollie, that picture.
Yeah, but I think he has managed. The gears are working okay. He's now at the lower end of the block, so.
I used to have a road bike that the gears were that bad you had to kick them in, so maybe he's had to do that.
Well, we did see in that short track Chris Blevins reaching down and putting this chain on with his hand, so maybe he just got his foot out and kicked it.
Gave it a kick.
It's doable. But But yeah, as I say, and you know, Luca just so honest on social media. If he doesn't perform to his expectations, he'll put a post up saying, yeah, that wasn't good enough today, and owns it. And it's very refreshingly sort of honest and open with everything.
Yeah, no, he's actually a really great athlete to work with. I'm really enjoying getting to know him, and it's my second season with him, so definitely really got to know him, and yeah, he's great, to be honest.
I do not doubt it. Trudler, what do you think's going on here, Ollie? Because it went from not looking right. He didn't come into the tech feed zone. Maybe that bike has just started working a bit better for him again.
Yeah, and he's closed that gap back up a little. It was 15, 16 seconds, back to 11 now.
Didn't go into the tech zone. It's definitely in a different ring now. So my theory about it not being able to shift.
The right cadence now, so maybe it was just a momentary thing.
Yep.
But yeah, Paul Shell did great to get across to...
When conditions are like this, it's actually having been dry and got wet is worse almost. And yeah, look, he's just adjusting the shifter.
Yeah, so there's a barrel adjuster where you can just adjust the cable tension off the shifter there, and having a little play with that, just trying to get the gears to work a little bit better.
It's actually, when it's been dry and got wet, it's a lot harder on the machinery than if it's been wet from the start, isn't it? Because the pickup of dirt into places and into things and getting stuck in and around gears and chains comes in a bit more. Rens Tunissen van Manen still leads. He's led for a long time now, the Dutchman.
But other than that, yeah, he had a 20-second lead at one point. He had a little slip on the roots and threw away 15 seconds. And then that attack from Shell has allowed him to get back on the wheel.
Let's get a visual on that gap. Yeah, it's still... And I think just body language as well. It's not looking... He's not looking happy on the bike.
But it even looks like he can't change his gear. Like, that's a big gear to be pushing. Do we not think?
Yeah, and yeah, before he was spinning like 100 revs a minute. Now he's at 70 revs a minute.
You have to wonder why he's not come in then. Is it just because he's at the front of the race and like, what am I going to solve?
It'll be race over. Yeah, so yeah, he's stuck in a gear, he's jumping off. I mean, it's a smart move.
It's very, very rare you see this in modern cross-country racing.
So I think, yeah, he is... Something's happened maybe with the rear derailleur or something stuck, and he's just reduced the tension to move the gears. So
it doesn't take much, though. I mean, there's a lot of rocks, there's a lot of wheels sliding everywhere. It doesn't take much of a knock on these long cage rear derailleurs to knock them out of alignment, and then you just get stuck in the rear derailleur thinks it's in a different place to the shifter, and it just knocks them out of sync a bit. There's a big wide spread of gears in the back of these cross-country bikes, quite finely tuned things. Rens Tunissen van Manen just has to open the knees out slightly to keep grip.
But these guys, I'm a bit scared as they drop into this.
You're a bit scared.
I'm a bit scared.
You're sitting up here.
I'm sat in a chair. Just as they come in, it all gets a little wobbly. You can see that it's all glassy, they've got no grip.
It's great work though, Tunissen van Manen, really big, tall rider, and you see that from taller riders. They can just open a knee out or just hang an elbow off slightly and just move a bit of weight here or there to adjust the grip levels. Bit of ballast on board.
Yeah, looking a little bit, obviously we've got the front three that we've been focusing on, but Nicholas Holt to the Swiss rider, up 30 seconds down to fourth. Pedersen with him as well, fifth position.
Alexander Houdema, the teammate of Rens Tunissen van Manen, in sixth. Braden Johnson's up in eighth. Sander Rocky's in ninth.
If we see Trudler now in a massive gear, I think unless he can get further up the cogs, he's not going to be able to get up this hill.
Look at the gear Trudler's having to push up here. Look at this from Finn Trudler.
He's out of his saddle as well. That's the first time we've seen that.
Oh.
If there's one way to close the gap, it's just be forced to ride in a bigger gear.
That is absolutely horrific. He's done it as well, you know.
Fair play to him.
Your worst nightmare now, though, is a chain going because of the demands you're putting on it. Huge, huge effort from Finn Trudler. Player of the match performance so far, if he can get that bike to the finish and onto the podium stuck in one gear.
Holter as well, coming through strong. Another one of the Thomas Maxson riders. And the Swiss team with strength in depth across all the categories.
Teunis Van Manen leads Paul Schell by 2 seconds, and I just wonder if that gap between them, Schell's maybe just opened it out to avoid if Teunis Van Manen does have any accidents or does end up making any mistakes. He's kind of
But how quick Schell through that. I think he'd actually, you're right, just backed off, knowing he's got the skill to close back
you
up.
can see there he grabs some brake there to maintain that gap, just because he knows if the Dutchman has any problems in front of him, he'll be hopefully able to ride around them.
And if you know, super smart racing, if you go, I think I can close 2 seconds, or why don't you soft pedal for a little bit, let the gap, instead of being on the brakes.
It's also, and I'm not for 1 second comparing Rens Teunis Van Manen to a lorry, but if you've ever driven very, very close behind a lorry and tried to overtake it, it's more difficult than if you have a bit of a run into it and you can see past it.
But that was really smart. You have a little bit of a breather.
That's impressed you,
Yeah,
I can tell.
Really impressed. That's done it for me. I love stuff like that.
You love the tech.
Yeah. But just the smarts.
And look, that he's on a part of the course where it's wide and he's got room to do it. He's just moved back up, showing Teunis Van Manen a wheel there. I'm still here, don't worry.
That is another level smarts in my book. That's how you race cross country, just using your brain the whole time. And he was like, he could have gone down at the descent, just bouncing off the brakes. And instead he went, I'm going to have a 2 second breather, leave a gap, knowing that I can close back up. Super confident, really smart.
A bit of a smile into the mechanics, but look at that. Well, Emma, thank you very much. You've got to go and do your very important job now of speaking to the people after the race. If Finn Trudler makes it down there in third.
I'm going to put you on the spot before you go.
Yeah, hit me with it.
Who's going to win?
I'm going to go Finn, I reckon.
Yeah. Right.
I think. Technically, really strong. Yeah, that's going to be me. I'm going to ask him some technical questions.
Do it.
Try and get in the nitty-gritty. Ask him.
Finn's going to win a sprint stuck in first gear.
It's going to come in. It's going to come into his wheelhouse all of a sudden.
Oh, hey, we love an underdog. We love an underdog story.
We love an underdog
I love
story.
an underdog stuck in first gear too.
Exactly. He's in his
a low revving underdog. Yeah, but thank you very much. Get out there and amongst it as we get to sit back and enjoy the final stanzas of an absolutely hectic day of racing here in Nové Město na Moravě. Thus was it ever going to be. 10 seconds the gap covering the top three. Fourth place, currently 31 seconds behind the lead. Rens Teunis Van Manen of KMC Ridley. And there is Holter and Pedersen tied together. Yet another young Swiss star in the making on the Thomas Maxson squad.
Yeah, and Pedersen going into this race second overall behind Finn Trudler, and like I say, 10 races in the series all the way through till October, and there's an overall fight going on as well, so it's not just one race.
Tell you what, if Finn Trudler does win this in a sprint, as Emma has predicted, she's going to make you look like a right fool. Well, I suppose track cyclists, they know all about sprinting in single gear, so maybe she knows something we don't.
Stranger things have happened.
Currently then, Rens Teunis Van Manen on the same second as Paul Schell. We reckon there's a bit of gamesmanship going from Paul Schell here. He seems to just be able to close up on the wider sections and then drop back off into safety like he's doing now through the technical parts of the course. These two, Holter and Pedersen, are battling for fourth and fifth. Meanwhile, the overall points leader is stuck between these two groups, Finn Trudler, and he's stuck in the same gear, we reckon. Nové Město stuck in one gear is just about as abject misery as a mountain biker is likely to find.
Yeah, and we see him playing with the barrel adjuster, adjusting the tension on the cable, so something not right.
It wasn't one of those fine adjustments either. It was a give me anything other than this. Yeah, it looked like he was stuck in too big a gear to begin with, and then too, I don't know, it was
all over this place.
Yeah, Goldilocks and the Free Bears sort of porridge scenario going on.
And this course, big extremes in terms of surface and gradient as well, so.
Finn Trudler is having to dig extremely deep. These two, though, I just wonder, 14 seconds back to third place. Are they going to get caught up racing each other? They are about to cross the start-finish line for the penultimate time. They're going to see the board. Final lap. Here's the bell. Last lap. Final round of the fight.
Yeah,
Final lap of the day here in Nové Město, Namarave. Finn Trudler still looking for a gear. Any gear other than the one he's in.
You see, it looks like the shifter maybe is broken.
He was tucking and freewheeling down that little descent towards the finish line, but he's got some work to do if he wants to catch these two.
Right, place your bets now. Emma's going with Finn Trudler.
I'll go for Shell.
Cool. I'll have Tunison then.
Right, just as the stakes ratchet up a notch here in the commentary booth, Trudler through the tech feed zone, still banging away at that gear lever, looking for any other cog than the one he's in. Amazing that he stands so far ahead of Halter and Pedersen as well. Goes some distance to telling you why he's leading the overall points at the minute. He's that technically good that even stuck in that gear, he's able to keep ahead of some of his contemporaries. Yeah,
and we saw the class of Trudler as well. The first two races in Arashar, winning both of those, like relative ease, really. You know, big gaps in both races. Absolutely smashed it.
He even tried to make it complicated for himself, trying to go turn about with his teammate Nicholas Hoogs, and just ended up going, nah, I'll go myself, it's fine. In Arashar, second round. So, here's your leader, Rens Tunison van Manen. He has been in the lead for an incredible amount of time. Shell momentarily went past him, then just tucked back in again. But here's an attack from Shell, though, up this climb.
4 climbs left to go. Second being the hardest with the Woot wall.
Look at Finn Trudler's face.
Yeah, he's not giving up. 13 seconds now.
What a ride from this man. He's kept it at 13 seconds, Ollie. That's huge, huge work.
This is the first time we've seen Shell really hit the front. He's just going to ramp it up. Looking Tunison under pressure.
And there is the battle for fourth place, Halter versus Pedersen. Oh, wow, huge, huge crash. The Danish rider there, down into the dip. It is claiming bodies, that route section, and it's just out in the open, Ollie, isn't it? So those routes are wetter than they are anywhere else on course.
Massive route, back 45 degrees just on the entry, and easier said than done, but the way to do it is just as you come in, they actually have to hop the route, and then you land, just kind of pre-hop the jump almost, and just clean the route. But it's massive route.
And there is Trudler off and running. He's picking his sections now. Was never getting up that, stuck in that cog.
Yeah, he's almost mid-block at the back. But you see a gap just appearing now, poor Shell, and only a couple of meters.
And Shell.
Tunison just down. That's the first time I've seen his shoulders roll.
Out front, you know what? I've seen some impressive stuff in the under-23 men's category, but Finn Trudler stuck in a gear here in Nové Město. Oh! And just Shell had to anchor up to correct it there, and
just as he'd got a gap as well,
nearly went into the back of him. Let's see that again, Ollie. Talk us through it.
Yeah, just off. He just went to the side, slipped on that first section, manages to stay upright, managed to correct himself.
For a second, I wondered if he was brake checking Tunison van Manen through there, but that would be next level gamesmanship. High stakes poker.
Yeah, Tunison as well did well to stand it because he was fully into that rock section and just had to slam on the anchor.
Paul Shell, this is it now. Can he start to apply the pressure?
So we have this false flat now under the arch, and then you hit the long Woot wall.
Here we go, up the Woot wall for the last time today. We go for the last time in 2025. The steepest climb in mountain biking awaits, and it is a duel between Paul Shell and Rens Tunison van Manen.
Oof. side by side.
It's only 9 seconds to Finn Trudler, you know.
And it's Tunison coming past Shell. Trudler in that massive gear. Can hardly get it round.
Look at the effort from Finn Trudler, the rider in the red jersey on your screen.
Tunison attacks, just getting now a couple of meters over Shell. The table's turning.
Ollie, you know, if you're watching this for the first time, you're tuning in as a road racing fan. There's no bike changes in mountain biking, is there? He's on that thing for hell or high water.
Tech support you can take, well, the majority, most popular one, sorry, is to take a spare wheel, but yeah, no, but you have to finish on the frame you started with.
Huge encouragement for Paul Schell, but it's Rens Tunison van Manen who's riding away from the German at the minute. This one just going back and forth.
Yeah, just trading blows between these two guys at the front, and it's Trudler as well, just he hasn't given up yet.
Oh, call me an old romantic, but this is hugely impressive bike racing from Finn Trudler. Looks like he's been stuck in that gear for 3 laps now and has not backed off. It has actually gained ground on these two in front of him. It's back to 11 seconds now. It was 9, but if they get caught up and get tangled,
so we just dropped down, come out onto the forest road. Then we got the longest climb, the forest road up through the feed, the neck, tech and feed zone.
they've still got to hit that route section out in the open, Ollie, as well. It has been claiming bodies over the last lap. Shell revving hard now in second place.
And it's Trudler. Tunison just looking round. They're worried about Trudler.
Unbelievably, given what's going on, they will be completely unawares of that, of course, as they head into the tech feed zone at the top of the course for the last time. Rens Tunison van Manen and Paul Schell. This is it, now or never.
Full pain face.
What's the split going to be? Trudler crosses into the tech zone.
11 seconds.
11 seconds it remains between the man with one gear on his bike and the lead of the race.
It was almost, I thought Tunison was going to drop Shell, but
it's 9 seconds, you know. It's 9 seconds to Trudler. He's ridden away from Pedersen and Holter, who are 35 seconds off the lead. So all of a sudden, the UCI World Cup overall points winner is within 9 seconds of the front of the race, having been stuck in the same gear for 3 laps. This is just unbelievable bike racing from Finn Trudler. Take nothing away from what these two are doing out front, and I think Paul Schell is back on the stalking mode, you know. It's not getting too close to Rens Tunison van Manen. At the same time, though,
this is great. The big drops down. Then you've got the big burn at the bottom, and then we're into the last climb. And it's not that long this year. Just a little easier and a little shorter than previous years.
I said at the top of this race that it's been a day full of intrigue, but that has been hammered home by these under-23 men. Rens Tunison van Manen, Paul Schell, neither of them have won a UCI World Cup before.
But this one's coming down to a sprint.
They are ahead just by 8 seconds now. Another second going to Finn Trudler, the man who's won every round of the cross-country Olympic World Cup for this age bracket so far this year. There he is on our screen now, and he's been stuck in the same gear for
8 seconds now.
That route section, absolutely horrific, but the leaders are through it. Sniper routes aplenty through here as well, but Schell just finding a nice direct line through them all.
But it'll be interesting to see. It's only 8 seconds back to Trudler, and as they hit the asphalt, both these guys aren't going to want to be at the front. You definitely want to be second wheel, and you don't want to open up the sprint, and you definitely don't want to drag the other rider to the finish. So that will give an opportunity maybe for Trudler to come back. 7 seconds to Trudler. But there's going to be some real brinkmanship between these two to see who can open up the sprint. But if neither of them and they both stall, Trudler's back in the game.
But it could be heartbreak, you know, for Trudler as well, because if they do hit that asphalt sprint for the line together, he hasn't got a big cog to jump into to go with them.
Break the cable with my hand.
Go for a manual transmission.
I
would
just
you?
go manual.
Fully manual. Well, They are heading down towards the Visoshina Arena for the last time today, and it's Rens Tunison van Manen of KMC Ridley who leads Paul Schell of Lexware mountain bike team. One of these two is about to win their first UCI cross-country Olympic World Cup race. Who's it going to be?
And who's going to lead it out?
And it's all come down to this. It's a long sprint. They've got to get up the hill first. Schell looking really, really animated. Who is it going to be? We are heading for a sprint finish late in the day here in Nové Město.
The wind has
dropped. The wind has dropped, the rain has dropped. This one is going to be mano a mano. Rens Tunison van Manen stands on the pedals and goes really early. But here comes Paul Schell. Paul Schell stands on the pedals. Paul Schell is going to win his first UCI cross-country World Cup. In some style, the German has the beating of the Dutchman, but behind him. Chapeau, take your hat off, whatever you want to do for that man there. Finn Trudler stuck in one gear for we think at least 3 laps of this Nové Město Namarave circuit. But Lexware have a win, Ollie. Huge
Wow.
result for the German side.
Yeah, for that team, been in the sport a long time. What a race.
It's business up front, party out back for the mullet haircut, but it's been all business ahead of a party later on this evening for Paul Schell. There is Nicholas Holter.
And I'm sure Tunison will get his win one day, the way he rode today.
Look
so
at
close.
this. Look at this. Facidamed, Swiss rider.
67th on the grid. Back to 6th place.
And it's a sprint behind them. Gustav Heavy Pedersen going toe to toe with Braden Johnson. Pedersen getting it across the line. Yeah, they're starting to just check out what was going on with that rear shifting on the bike of Finn Trudler in 3rd place. Maybe stripped the cable, or hard to say. I mean, that rear mech could have got a knock a long time ago and just refused. Apologies, you heard any language there down at the finish line. Big win for Paul Schell, and a moment he'll remember for the rest of his career.
But a great race, yeah, between Tunison and Schell, both trading punches, both getting small gaps. Ended up coming down to a gallop.
He will not have to buy a coffee on the coffee ride for a while after this victory, but look how well he did in the sprint.
Coming off the slipstream into the headwind. That's how you win a sprint.
And just, I think Tunison van Manen was empty by then. He didn't have anything left for him.
But also as well, Tunison had to lead the sprint out. Makes a big difference at the speed they were coming off that ramp as well. Coming off the back wheel.
Proper celebration as well. Watch this. This is what it means to win a UCI cross-country World Cup. Schell victorious in Nové Město Namarave. Look at that. Let's get the results then fully tabulated.
Ganz stark.
Schell
Ganz stark. Ganz stark.
down there.
Ganz stark, Paul. Du kannst es. Du kannst es.
So much emotion down in the finish area. Gustav Heavy Pedersen down there as well to congratulate him. Great to see. Such a tightly knit little world cross-country racing. Here is the results then. Schell, Tunison, Van Manen, Trudler, Halter, Sidemid, Pedersen, Johnson, English, Houdima and Rocky, the top 10, covered by 1 minute 36 seconds. William Handley was 11th, Ethan Rose. These are really the survivors, Ollie. A lot of bodies claimed out there by the course in Nové Město na Moravě today. Pakinyala down there in 24th, not his day.
Paul, your first World Cup win. Tell us about it and what a way to do it.
I didn't expect it. I had a huge crash in the first round of the World Cup. At the start, had a big bruise. I couldn't go on my bike for 3 weeks. And yeah, the last 3 to 4 weeks getting back to training was like a roller coaster with up and downs. But like my family, especially my parents, they helped me through it with their physio skills. Also our team physio, my siblings, that supported me mentally. My brother pushing me like through every training, believed in me, like same as my sister. It was incredible. Yeah, and I really didn't expect it to win this World Cup. Yeah, I struggled kind of like the whole race. Like felt technically super strong, like could recover all the time. Just did a big mistake before the big rock on the last step, but the rest felt just amazing. Yeah.
Well, we're very glad to see that you recovered from a few of those wee mistakes. And technically, we did see out there you were phenomenal. You were definitely the best. And what do you think that is from?
Yeah, I think that's from my Enduro boys in Freiburg at my home, like pushing me over every loamer, pulling me over jumps that I would never have done, risking my life every down and going faster than you might expect to go with a XCO bike that helped me over every down. Yeah.
Well, we're very glad to see. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Absolutely superb stuff from Paul Schell, warming the cockles of your heart on a very cold day here in Nové Město na Moravě. Ollie, how good was that young man today?
Legend. I mean, really well ridden, worked up through, perfect sprint on the tech skills. There you go. If you're an XCO rider, go out with your Enduro boys.
Great shout out to the Enduro boys as well. UCI Enduro World Cup in full flow as we speak. New series headed your way, Grit and Glory, later on this summer. Looking inside that really, really tough discipline that we know and love so well, but a man I think we're all going to get to know a bit better as this year progresses. Paul Schell got his win today.
Yeah, in the first 2 races in Brazil, like you said, he made the big trip, crashed in the first round, didn't even start the second round.
So, Tunison Van Manen fastest on lap 2 and lap 3. Schell got lap 4. Final lap of the race went to Finn Trudler, unbelievably stuck in one gear. How has he done that? Lap 4, it's all Schell. Lap 1 went to Julia Scherer. Well, we're going to head back down there and hear for Rens Tunison Van Manen of KMC Ridley.
Rens, what a race out there. And the way that you did it, you really attacked it from the front. Talk us through it.
Yeah, I think it was the 3rd lap already. And I managed to create a gap on the on the longest downhill. And then it's like, yeah, no, now you have to go. And I just went all out. And then I had a little mechanical when the gap was on the, I think like 20 seconds. And then last 2-3 laps was just, yeah, trying to save a bit for the last lap. But last lap was just all out. And the sprint here was on the max in the cramps, and it was the maximum.
Talk us through those weather conditions changing. So we saw that we started the race in the dry, and now it was wet, quite wet out there. So how did that change things for you?
I already adjusted the tire pressure a bit before I went to the start. I was like, maybe it will get a bit tricky towards the end. And last 2-3 laps on the long route climb, it was pretty slippery and difficult to hold the line. And then, yeah, it's also you're on the maximum you have to like put the power in the right places, and that's really difficult when you get tired.
Oh, wow, we're glad that you stayed upright and you had such great success today.
Yeah.
Teunis van Manen, you get the sense, Ollie, he started to realise what could have been.
I mean, that 20-second gap, and he had a great race today. You know, other than that one small mechanical, everything was perfect. He just unfortunately got beaten by Paul Schell in that sprint, but I think he can be proud of himself, and I think that big win will happen in one of the races this year.
We mentioned it, didn't we, just how fickle a sport this is. It turns on absolutely nothing, and as you say, that one mistake, he wasn't cruising to a victory, but he was looking absolutely superb for it. Here's the standings then after that one. Trudler still leads by 74 points. Ollie, I trot this one up out now and again, but you win titles on your bad days. Pedersen in second now, Teunis van Manen in third, Paganella, disappointing day for him in fourth, Handley fifth, Paul Schell up into 11th after that superb result. Sasha Hudima in 12th. And I cannot wait for this one. Let's hear from one of the hardest working men in mountain biking. Finn Trudler is down there now.
Finn, we've seen a bit of bad luck out there for yourself. Talk us through it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have the best short track yesterday, and I wanted to fight back today. And I got a bit unlucky with my shifting. It didn't really work. And yeah, I really fought to keep the podium spot today. I'm a bit disappointed because I felt like I had the legs for the win today. But obviously, I'm also super happy for Paul and Rens for going 1 and 2 in front of me.
When something like that happens and you have the opportunity to go into the tech zone, why didn't you?
Yeah, I felt like it was still working a little bit, and a stop would cost me more time than try to keep going. So I just try to focus and keep going as long as I can.
Well, it was an absolutely tremendous effort. I know everyone at home was really cheering you on, so well done.
Thanks so much.
Ollie, cool, calm and collected. If that was me, it would be a mixture of vomit and tears just everywhere. But yeah, I mean,
up against it all weekend, like I say, poor short track, fought to the front, attacked on the front, issue with the gears, and we saw him spinning 1 minute, and on a course to have an issue and stuck in maybe 1 or 2 gears, this is not the one. You know, but fair play to him. He held the gap at 15 seconds,
and
kept the podium.
How aware as well to know that coming in would have cost him that third place.
To think really calmly and calculated during, you know, a mechanical, and if you get emotional and in a race, it's it's higher level. But like I say, I think that's when you can win championships on your bad days. We see Alessandra Keller do it last year, and I see Finn Trudler from the same vein. You know, you don't give up, you keep fighting to the finish.
Trudler, it's a good point. Any young riders watching at home, never ever give up. Well, we don't have long to wait before the gravity contingent go wheel to wheel again. Ludenviel, a genuine, what's becoming a modern classic. What a racetrack we have in store in France next weekend. Can't wait to get there and watch that one unfold and whisper it. It can be a wet little corner of the world as well, Ludenviel, when it wants to be, but the racing is all the better for it. As we get ready for the podium. Paul Schell's well wrapped up ahead of that one compared to Finn Trudler.
What did you do?
Well, we have some breaking news. Apparently, Mathieu van der Poel off for scans. Potentially broken bone in the hand. It's not official yet. Nothing formal from the team, but would explain that exit. Better safe than sorry. We'll bring you more news on that if and when we get it. Conflicting reports circulating here in Nové Město na Moravě already as to the Dutchman's abandoning of this one. The European Continental Champion, Finn Trudler. Tough day in the office, but we learnt a lot about that young man today. Rens Tunison van Manen looks like he'd like to be anywhere else in the Czech Republic other than here, climbing up onto the second step. The one that got away could haunt him for a bit, Ollie, but it could also be big fuel for the fire.
But yeah, I think it's one of those ones, it'll be mixed emotions, lost in a sprint, but also as well, that's his best result so far this season, and another step towards it. He will get his win soon.
Lovely having you here for podiums, by the way. I usually do this by myself. Look at this, though. Paul Schell for Lexware. The biggest smile in Nové Město na Moravě goes to this man. And that's what we mean by every time we say it, it matters a bit more in Nové Město.
As well, I mean, an amazing interview he did as well, but you go to Brazil, huge amount of cost, time, effort, you crash, you don't finish either race, you come home, jet-lagged, knackered, broken,
hey.
And then to turn it round in 6 weeks to win.
If your parents are physios and your mates all ride enduro bikes,
it's a good start.
It's a good start. Paul Schell, Rens Tunison van Manen and Finn Trudler. Paul Schell of Lexware. We talked about it so much over the last couple of years. The young German riders coming through in both endurance and gravity formats, in fairness to them. And they've got a win here today. Lexware, one of those squads pushing hard.
And a lot of them, like I say, that they're a real development squad in Germany, and they bring riders through U23s into successful careers. And Julian Schaub last year.
Yep. Paul Schell.
Yeah, another Martin Vidara as well, was Lexware for a year and U23, and there's those teams that are really important before you get to the big full factory. They are a factory team, but sorry, UCI team, not a factory team, but that's that development squad. Do a great job.
Great scenes on the podium, rounding out a superb day of racing here in the Czech Republic. Well, the red and white jersey going nowhere, still on the back of Finn Trudler for Cube Factory Racing. What a display from him today. Take absolutely nothing away from that man. He deserves to wear that jersey after an unbelievably hard second half of a really difficult race. Ollie, thank you very much for your company today. It has been an absolutely superb day here in Nové Město na Moravě, as ever. Thank you for joining us for this, one of cross country's biggest days. They'll be back in action in a couple of weeks' time, don't worry. Thanks for watching. We'll see you then.